A modern international airport is one of the most strictly controlled closed systems on the planet. Every step you take is recorded by a matrix of cameras. It is impossible to simply disappear from here. But on this digital recording, you see an object that breaks this law. He voluntarily leaves his luggage. He leaves his passport, his money, and his phone. He sends one final cryptic text message to his mother, 4 words that no investigator has ever fully explained. He sprints beyond the perimeter of the security system, overcomes a metal barrier topped with barbed wire, and dissolves forever into the open space. Make yourself comfortable. Today we lay the topographic maps on this desk and analyze the paradox of a man who erased his own existence in exactly 40 seconds. The last footage, the case of Lars Mittank. In July 2014, the world received the most famous missing person footage in the history of the Internet. The web instantly flooded with conspiracy theories about international cartels, smuggling rings, mafia pursuits, and secret experiments. But in this room, we do not analyze gossip and Internet folklore. We examine biology, topography, and the cold logic of space. When you strip away all the informational and tabloid noise, you are faced with an absolutely incomprehensible spatial and physical anomaly. How can an organic body vanish without a trace in an open area surrounded by civil infrastructure? And why has not a single government agency, in over a decade of active searching, produced even one verifiable confirmed lead? Before we begin the topographic analysis, let us establish the most important variable of this entire investigation: the baseline, the control point, the state of the object before the anomaly was triggered. Lars Mittank, 28 years old, a German citizen born and raised in the city of Wilhelmshaven in Lower Saxony, a port city, a city of fishermen, industrial workers, and naval officers. A city that produces by its very geography and culture people who are pragmatic, physically resilient, and emotionally grounded. By every account of those who knew him, a calm, rational, completely ordinary young man. No criminal record, no documented psychiatric history, no history of substance abuse. A man with a stable social environment, a close family, and a group of friends he had known for years. Physical parameters of the object: height, 5 feet, 11 inches. Weight, approximately 185 pounds. An athletic, solid build, the result of years of regular physical activity. We established these biometric data points at the very beginning of our investigation. You will soon understand why. To overcome the engineering obstacles he crossed in that specific second requires colossal physical strength and perfect coordination. And the contrast between the man who arrived in Varna and the object captured on that airport footage is the central unresolved mystery of this case. The location is the city of Varna, Bulgaria, the Black Sea coast, early July, the peak of the summer tourist season. Tens of thousands of European tourists fill the beaches, the restaurants, the clubs. By every metric, a completely standard holiday destination. Lars arrived here with a group of close friends for a standard summer vacation. Nothing in the days leading up to the anomaly suggested any deviation from the expected behavioral pattern. The timeline of this anomaly begins not with mysticism, but with a clear, documented medical fact. While vacationing with friends, Lars sustained an injury during a local altercation, a fight that broke out over a football match in a beachside bar. A fist connected with the side of his head. The diagnosis: a ruptured eardrum in his left ear. From the standpoint of physics and aviation medicine, this injury is critical for air travel. The radical shift in atmospheric pressure within a pressurized aircraft cabin at high altitudes could cause irreversible, devastating damage to the inner ear, permanent hearing loss, catastrophic vertigo, or in extreme cases, rupture of the round window membrane, which would result in immediate and total loss of spatial equilibrium. A local physician strictly forbade him from boarding a flight and prescribed an intensive course of antibiotics and rest. His friends flew back to Germany on schedule. Lars remained in Varna entirely alone, waiting for the membrane to heal. He checked into a cheap hotel in a rough neighborhood of the city, not the resort strip along the coast, but the working residential interior of Varna. Concrete blocks, narrow streets. a neighborhood where tourists do not go voluntarily and where the cameras are older, fewer, and further apart. And it is in this exact moment, in this specific hotel, in this specific neighborhood, alone and in physical pain, that his behavioral matrix begins to fail. The hotel's security cameras capture him pacing empty hallways for hours at a time, 2, 3, 4 in the morning, hiding inside the elevator cab, holding the door closed with his hand, standing motionless for minutes at a time, constantly and nervously scanning the geometry of the space around him each time he stepped into a corridor, as if mapping every angle, every doorway, every possible point of entry for a threat he could not name but could clearly see. His eyes move with the rapid, systematic precision of a trained security operative, not the random, startled glances of a frightened tourist. On the third night, he called his mother. The conversation lasted 11 minutes. She later told investigators that he was whispering the entire time, not quietly, but with the deliberate, controlled breath of someone who is genuinely afraid of being heard through a wall or a door. He told her he believed men were following him. He told her he had seen them in the lobby, in the street outside, in the reflection of the elevator doors. He told her he was not safe. He told her not to worry. And then he ended the call. This is a documented fact of acute clinical paranoia, but paranoia is merely a state of the human mind, an altered processing framework that generates false threat signals from neutral stimuli. We are interested in something else entirely. We are interested in how this altered state of mind, this specific documented configuration of fear and hypervigilance, collided with the harsh, indifferent laws of physics the very next morning. Let's move to the airport terminal, July 8, 2014. Lars Mittank arrives at Varna International Airport. He is carrying his luggage, a backpack and a duffel bag. He has his passport, he has his wallet, he has his phone. All of his primary survival and identity tools are fully intact and present. From a logistical standpoint, he is a completely functional international traveler, 48 hours away from being home in Germany. An airport is a perfectly designed, closed, and rigidly controlled zone. There are no blind corners here. Every square meter is covered by high-resolution lenses, entry points, departure halls, corridors, retail areas, bathrooms. Armed police officers in uniform are visible throughout the space, customs agents, security personnel at every checkpoint. From the standpoint of objective security, Lars was in the safest possible environment in the entire country. If someone truly were following him, any rational threat analysis would confirm this. An airport is the single worst place on Earth to attempt a hostile action against a target. He heads to the medical office of the airport physician, Dr. Kostov, located on the ground floor of the terminal building, to obtain final medical clearance to fly home. The examination proceeds normally. Dr. Kostov checks the eardrum. The healing is progressing. The clearance appears to be a formality. Lars sits in the examination chair, his luggage beside him on the floor, his documents on the desk. A completely standard scene, a completely expected outcome. But during the consultation, the office door opens. An ordinary airport employee steps inside, a construction worker in a standard high-visibility work uniform carrying a clipboard. He has nothing to do with Lars. He is there on entirely routine business. He does not look at Lars. He does not address Lars. He exists in that room for perhaps 8 seconds before the interaction with Dr. Kostov is complete and he begins to leave. This random visual stimulus, a man in a uniform entering an enclosed space, becomes a fatal trigger in Lars's mind. The recorded reaction of the object directly contradicts every basic instinct of self-preservation in the modern world. He abruptly stands up from the chair. He does not say a word. He leaves all of his luggage on the floor. He leaves his passport on the doctor's desk. He leaves his mobile phone and his wallet next to the passport. And then, before anyone in the room can process what is happening, he has already gone through the door. Dr. Kostov later told investigators he was so stunned by what he had just witnessed that he sat motionless for several seconds before he was able to react. By the time he reached the hallway, Lars was already far down the corridor. pause on this second and analyze this physical fact with absolute precision. A government passport, currency, a communication device. These are not conveniences, they are not optional accessories. They are the primary fundamental tools for the social and physical survival of any human being in a foreign country. A government passport is your identity, the single document that proves, in the eyes of every state and every border agency on the planet, that you exist as a legal person. Currency is your access to water, food, shelter, and transportation. A communication device is your ability to call for help, to contact family, to be located by GPS coordinates in an emergency. Voluntarily abandoning all three of these tools simultaneously in a foreign country where you do not speak the language means the absolute and irreversible erasure of your own identity and your own survivability. Without a passport, you cannot cross a single border checkpoint. Without money, you cannot buy a bottle of water in 40 degrees of heat. Without a phone, you cannot call your mother, and you cannot be found. In that fraction of a second, Lars Mittank completely deactivated every single one of his survival systems. He sprints out of the doctor's office and into the main terminal corridor. From there, the digital cameras of Terminal 2 begin to capture the sequence that would become the most analyzed 40 seconds of missing person footage in the history of the Internet. The man in the bright yellow t-shirt moves through the airport corridors at remarkable speed. Pay close attention to the biomechanics of his movements in these frames. This is not the panicked, uncoordinated sprint of a person in a state of pure fear. He is not running chaotically. He does not stumble. He does not collide with other passengers. He does not look physically exhausted or disoriented. His run is incredibly purposeful, powerful, and fast. He maneuvers perfectly, almost elegantly, between automatic sliding doors, check-in counters, luggage carts, and moving passengers. He threads through the terminal space the way a person threads through a space they have already mapped in their mind, not discovering the route, but executing it. He does not once look back over his shoulder. He does not scan faces in the crowd for the threat he believes is pursuing him. His eyes are fixed forward, locked on the exit, as if the only relevant variable in the entire universe at this moment is the distance remaining between his body and the open air beyond the glass doors. None of the staff or security personnel have the time to react to this high-speed object cutting through the space of the sterile waiting hall. By the time a human brain registers the anomaly and begins to formulate a response, Lars is already past the field of view of the next camera. He bursts through the main sliding glass doors of the terminal and steps into the open air outside. The sterile, controlled, surveilled environment of the airport interior is now behind him. But the most difficult physical obstacles of this escape are only just beginning. Exterior security cameras capture Lars crossing the massive, open, asphalt-paved airport parking lot at a full run. The morning sun is already high and the pavement is beginning to radiate heat. Visibility in every direction is absolutely perfect. He does not run toward the taxi stand. He does not run toward the public bus stop. He does not run toward the main access road. He sets a completely direct, unwavering course for the exterior security perimeter of the airport, as though he already knew exactly where it was, as though he had studied its geometry in advance. The engineering defense of this perimeter is the second, much more serious physical obstacle of this sequence. The territory of Varna International Airport is separated from the surrounding land by a massive chain-link metal fence constructed of thick-gauge galvanized steel mesh. The height of this structure is 2.5 meters, over 8 feet tall. This is not a decorative garden fence. This is an engineered security boundary, designed by aviation safety regulations to be impassable, and tightly strung across the very top of this fence, in multiple horizontal rows, are the coils of sharp industrial barbed wire, the kind that tears through fabric and flesh with equal indifference. Overcoming such an obstacle without the use of specialized equipment requires a specific combination of attributes: colossal raw physical strength to pull 185 pounds of body weight vertically up a surface with minimal footholds, precise coordination to find microscopic purchase for athletic shoes in the narrow diamond-shaped gaps of the chain-link mesh, perfect body control to distribute your center of mass over the sharp barbed wire at the apex without allowing the metal to penetrate deep tissue, and the capacity to absorb a hard, completely uncontrolled landing from a height of nearly 10 feet onto irregular, compacted earth on the other side. Now recall the key medical fact we established at the very beginning of this investigation. Lars Mittank is a man with a recently ruptured eardrum. The tympanic membrane has been physically torn. The inner ear, which houses the semicircular canals and otolith organs of the vestibular system, has been compromised. The vestibular system is the biological apparatus responsible for the human sense of balance, spatial orientation, and the body's ability to maintain postural stability during movement. A ruptured eardrum, particularly one being treated with antibiotics suggesting active inflammation in the middle ear, critically impairs vestibular function. It induces episodes of vertigo. It generates a profound and disorienting loss of spatial equilibrium during any sudden change of body position, particularly during rapid vertical movement. Under normal circumstances, with a documented inner ear injury of this severity, climbing a 2.5-meter chain-link fence topped with barbed wire is a near impossible physical task. The vertigo alone should make a controlled descent on the other side extraordinarily difficult. Yet Lars clears this engineering barrier. Witnesses, workers present in the area near the perimeter fence, were later interviewed by investigators. Their testimony is consistent and precise. He approached the fence at full speed, did not slow or hesitate, gripped the mesh, climbed with extraordinary efficiency, cleared the barbed wire at the top, and dropped to the other side. The witnesses described watching him vault this barrier with what they characterized as frightening physical ease, as if, in that specific moment, he felt neither the lacerating pain of the barbed wire nor the disorienting pull of his vestibular injury, nor the force of gravity itself. The exterior security cameras capture him for the absolute last time at the exact second he crosses the line of the metal fence. One frame he is visible, the next frame he is gone. From there, the digital memory of the airport surveillance matrix is permanently and completely severed. The object has exited the coverage zone. He lands on the far side, and before him opens the final and most fatal topographic zone of this entire case, an endless dense field of ripe sunflowers. Let us analyze the harsh geometry of this open space with the precision it demands. An industrial sunflower field in Bulgaria in early July is not a picturesque rural landscape. It is a highly specific, deeply hostile, and physiologically dangerous environment. The plants at peak maturity grow to an average height of between 6 and 7 feet. The planting density of an industrial agricultural field is far greater than a garden. The stalks are thick, fibrous, and rigid. The leaves are large and broad, overlapping at multiple heights. The combined effect when you are standing inside it rather than looking at it from the outside is the complete and total elimination of any horizon line, any distant landmark, any visual reference to the surrounding world. The field becomes an enclosed organic labyrinth with walls on all sides and a ceiling of flowers above. The air temperature in the Varna region in early July regularly exceeds 86 degrees Fahrenheit and climbs rapidly as the day progresses. Inside the field, the airflow is dramatically reduced. A human body moving through this environment, without water, without any sun protection, is subject to a rapid and accelerating physiological stress load. Core body temperature begins to rise. Cognitive function begins to degrade within 15 to 20 minutes of vigorous physical exertion. Visual clarity is reduced to approximately 1 to 2 meters in any direction. Spatial orientation becomes almost impossible for a healthy, uninjured person within the first few minutes of entry. But this field is not an infinite desert. It is rigidly bounded on all sides by the hard infrastructure of a densely populated region. Directly beyond the agricultural zone runs the A2 motorway, one of the primary highway arteries of Bulgaria, carrying a continuous flow of commercial trucks and passenger vehicles 24 hours a day. On other sides lie the densely populated outer residential districts of the city of Varna. The maximum distance from the point where Lars crossed the fence to any paved road or inhabited structure was approximately 1 kilometer. This is the central, irresolvable paradox of the Lars Mittank case. To completely disappear in this specific, bounded, geometrically finite terrain, a physical object must somehow violate the fundamental law of conservation of mass. Matter does not vanish. 185 pounds of biological tissue does not dissolve into a sunflower field and cease to exist. If Lars lost consciousness from the combined physiological assault of heat exhaustion, dehydration, physical trauma, and the active inner ear infection, his body would have collapsed right there among the stalks and roots. It would have remained there. Vultures circle above open fields in southern Bulgaria. Agricultural workers move through the rows on a schedule. The field has edges, and every edge borders a road, a fence line, or a building. A body at rest in that terrain, in that heat, would have been found. The biology of decomposition in 35-degree July temperatures is not a slow, invisible process. It is loud, chemical, and detectable from distance by both human senses and trained animals. And yet, over the following days and weeks, the Bulgarian authorities mounted an extraordinarily comprehensive search operation. Specialized K9 units were deployed, dogs trained to detect both the living scent of a moving human and the biological decomposition signature of a deceased body. Thermal imaging cameras mounted on aerial assets scan the heat signatures of the field from above. Dozens of trained officers and civilian volunteers physically entered the field and conducted a systematic grid search, moving in coordinated lines through the labyrinth, covering every row, every section, every border area. Interpol was formally notified. Border agencies across Bulgaria, Romania, and Greece were placed on alert for any person matching Lars Mittank's description attempting to cross without documentation. The result was absolute zero. Not a single drop of human blood on the barbed wire, not a single thread of yellow fabric on any stalk, not a footprint in the soft earth near the fence base, not a single biological trace of any kind, no tissue, no fluid, no bone fragment, not a single molecular signature that a physical object weighing 185 pounds had ever traversed that space on that morning. The K9 units returned nothing. The thermal imaging returned nothing. The human grid search returned nothing. Over a decade has now passed. We exist in a world of surveillance infrastructure of a density that would have been considered science fiction 30 years ago. Facial recognition algorithms run at major transit hubs, gas stations, and border crossings across the entire European continent. Every credit card transaction leaves a permanent, time-stamped, geotagged record. Every hospital registration is cross-referenced with national identity databases. A photograph posted anonymously online can be identified and geolocated within minutes. Sightings of missing persons have been confirmed from single frames of background footage in foreign countries. People who vanished intentionally have been found within weeks by the digital shadow their daily movements inevitably cast. In this world, Lars Mittank has left absolutely nothing. Not a single verified hospital admission for an untreated ear infection that, without continued antibiotics, would within days become painful enough to force any rational person to seek medical help. In any country, in any language, under any name, not a single financial transaction, not a single confirmed visual identification anywhere on the planet. His mother lights a candle every week. She has never once stopped. She has never filed the paperwork to have him declared legally dead. His file at the German Federal Police remains classified as an active missing person investigation, not a cold case, not a declared death. Open, ongoing, unresolved. When we completely discard all of the cinematic scripts, the drug cartel narratives, the witness protection theories, the voluntary disappearance constructions, we are left face to face with a severe and impenetrable topographic void. A documentably normal young man underwent rapid psychological decompensation over 72 hours. He then performed a sequence of physical actions that defy easy categorization, abandoning every survival tool simultaneously, executing a high-speed transit of a controlled terminal, clearing a purpose-built security barrier with injuries that should have made the attempt physically prohibitive, and entered a bounded finite surveilled geographic zone, and then the bounded finite surveilled geographic zone simply did not give him back. We have laid the topographic maps on this desk. We have established the precise physical and biometric parameters of the object. We have analyzed the engineering specifications of every obstacle. We have measured the hostile environmental conditions of the final zone. We have documented the unprecedented scale and the absolute null result of the search operation that followed. Stripping away every internet rumor, every tabloid theory, every conspiratorial framework, what do you think actually happened beyond that metal fence on that sweltering July morning? How does a large biological object, 185 pounds of mass generating heat, leaving physical evidence with every step, dissolve in a bounded territory surrounded by roads, buildings, and people, leaving not a single atom of evidence for search dogs, thermal cameras, and trained human eyes? And what were those 4 words in the final message he sent to his mother just before he walked into Dr. Kostov's office for the last time? Is the answer still lying quietly beneath the roots of that sunflower field, waiting for its time? Share your topographic and logical analysis in the comments. Thank you for being with us today. The world appears entirely explored and meticulously mapped, right up until the moment you step off the route yourself. Stay observant, because a space might seem empty, but someone is always watching.